It began like most heartbreaks do. Not with a crash, but with a whisper, a quiet, gnawing doubt that sank its teeth into my mind late at night while Isabel lay beside me, her back turned, her breathing even and slow while my heart thudded unevenly against my ribs as I stared at the ceiling, trying to silence the alarms going off in my head. I used to believe love was built on trust, that if you gave your whole heart to someone, they would cradle it, cherish it, protect it, but Isabel taught me that some people hold your heart just to see how hard they can squeeze before it breaks. And I wish I could say I saw it coming, but the truth is I was blindly in love with a woman who made me feel like I was the only man in the world when in reality, I was just one of many, a pawn in her game that I didn't even realize I was playing until the rules shifted, until I came home early from work one rainy Tuesday and found her on the phone, pacing the living room with a wine glass in one hand and her voice lowered into something sultry and unfamiliar as she said, "He doesn't suspect a thing, baby." And I stood frozen in the hallway, the groceries slipping from my hand as I heard her laugh, a sound that had once made me feel alive, now making me feel sick. And when she turned and saw me, she didn't stutter or panic, she simply ended the call, smiled casually, and asked me if I wanted dinner, as if she hadn't just torn my reality apart. But I said nothing, not then, not that night. I just went through the motions like a ghost because denial is easier than devastation. And even as the signs piled up, her phone always face down, the late nights, the sudden business trips, the hollow kisses, I clung to the fantasy that maybe, just maybe, I was wrong because the truth meant facing the possibility that the life we'd built together was a lie. And that kind of truth has a way of shattering everything you think you know about love, about loyalty, about yourself, but eventually, the truth finds you, and it found me one evening when she left her laptop open, carelessly, arrogantly, and I saw an email from someone named Marcus. Not a coworker, not a friend, but someone she had been meeting, sleeping with, planning a future with while I sat at home making dinner and paying the bills. And as I read through their messages, their plans, their disgusting jokes at my expense, I felt something inside me break. Not anger, not yet, but sorrow, deep, drowning sorrow that the woman I loved had not only betrayed me but mocked me for loving her. And when I confronted her, when I showed her the emails, she didn't cry or apologize or even flinch, she simply crossed her arms, looked me in the eyes and said, "So what?" Like 5 years meant nothing, like I was nothing, and I remember walking out that night into the cold, the wind cutting through my coat as if to remind me that everything I thought was warm had turned to ice, and by the time I tried to call her the next morning, I was already blocked, phone, email, social media, every trace of me scrubbed clean from her life like I was just a mistake she needed to delete. And I might have let it go, I might have tried to move on in silence, licking my wounds in private, had it not been for a message I received a week later from someone I never expected. Her younger sister Elena, the quiet one, the one who always hovered at the edges of family gatherings like a shadow, who had once told me softly, "You deserve someone who sees you." A comment I hadn't understood at the time but now echoed in my head like a warning I failed to heed, and her message was simple. "I'm sorry about Isabel. There's more. I think you should know." And attached were files, screenshots, recordings, bank statements, that detailed a betrayal far worse than cheating. Isabel and Marcus hadn't just been lovers, they had been partners in crime, orchestrating a long con to drain my accounts, forge my name on documents, even take out loans in my identity, and the man I thought was a stranger had been living in my home when I was away, using my things, eating my food, while Isabel smiled sweetly and kissed me goodnight. And the worst part was that her own sister had known for weeks but had been too afraid to speak up, torn between blood and conscience until guilt finally won. And I remember meeting Elena in a small cafe downtown, the weight of betrayal hanging over us both as she slid a flash drive across the table and whispered, "I didn't know how to tell you but you need to see this." And what I saw on that drive will haunt me forever. Videos of Isabel laughing as she read aloud my old love letters, mocking them, calling me pathetic, audio of her telling Marcus how easily she manipulated me, how she faked tears when I suspected anything, how she called me her emotional insurance policy. And I sat there numb, unable to breathe while Elena watched me with tears in her eyes and said, "I'm sorry. I should have told you sooner." And in that moment the pain turned to rage, not loud, violent rage but cold and precise, the kind that sees things clearly, and I took everything, every file, every text, every transaction to the police, and it turned out Marcus had a record, fraud, identity theft, even a sealed case involving a missing woman from 3 years ago. And with my evidence they were able to reopen investigations, track offshore accounts, and eventually issue warrants, and I watched from a distance as Isabel's perfect little world began to crumble. as she was arrested at a boutique downtown wearing the necklace I had given her on our anniversary. And when she looked into the cameras, her eyes wide and lips trembling, I felt no pity, only justice, and in the weeks that followed, I received calls from her, emails from fake accounts, letters begging for forgiveness, but I never responded, because closure doesn't come from the person who broke you. It comes from choosing to never let them hurt you again, and through it all, Elena remained by my side, not as a replacement, not as a rebound, but as a friend, a witness, a survivor in her own right, because she too had been used, manipulated by her sister for years, always the quiet sibling, the overlooked one, but together we found solace in our pain, in our shared sense of betrayal, and over time that bond deepened into something neither of us expected. A gentle, cautious love built not on fantasy but on truth, and, though we tread carefully, afraid of repeating the past, we moved forward, hand in hand, healing not just from Isabel's lies but from everything we had once believed about love, and sometimes on quiet nights, I still think about how close I came to losing everything, how a single message from a quiet sister changed the course of my life, and I realize now that betrayal doesn't always end in destruction. Sometimes it's the fire that forges something stronger, something real, and in that truth, I found not only closure but a second chance, not with the woman I once loved, but with the one who saw the truth and chose to save me from it, even when it meant betraying her own blood, and for that I will always be grateful, not just to Elena, but to the part of myself that finally learned to stop forgiving people who weren't sorry and start rebuilding a life with someone who never had to lie to earn my love.